got to start off with everything that went down yesterday in the world of college football. The Frankel and Frankel Injury Attorneys text line is 877-881-1053 to get involved in the conversation here today. I'm sure the Tolos have plenty of thoughts about yesterday's matchups, specifically the one involving that team from Texas.
Yep.
So we'll get into all of that and more here today. We're live on Twitch and YouTube as well. Want you to get involved there. But I think we have to start with, I'll call it the elephant in the room, but it's the Longhorn in the room. Texas Longhorns yesterday play Arizona State. And boy, did this one feel like it was over before it even started, just judging by the line. But there in the fourth quarter, things got really, really dicey, and that was some of the most fun I've had watching college football in a very long time. 39-31 in overtime. The Longhorns win and advance. And overall, not what I expected in this game. I mean, we talked about it all last week. I mean, we had our guy Carter Freeman, who's going to be on the show with us today at 1:20, saying, yeah, like the line is accurate. It feels like this is not the greatest matchup here for Arizona State, but they make things wickedly close at the end of the game as they score 16 in the fourth quarter to force overtime. Cam Skattebo is my spirit animal. This man is literally like violently puking on the sidelines and then going out there and scoring touchdowns, over 200 all-purpose yards, 3 scores on the day. People were trolling him, specifically all of the Texas fans, because they all think that they are the you-know-what. And he said during the week that nobody can stop him. Well, that was true. Not even the vaunted Texas run defense could stop him. Even in the past game, he got things done for Arizona State. This was overall one of the best college football games that I watched this season. I was happy that I was able to actually sit down because of the holiday and watch it in its entirety.
Yep.
Just your early takeaways from that game, because I've got a lot to say about this game, so I'm going to give you the platform first.
Yeah, it was definitely the best college football game we've seen in a while, because all the games in round one were a blowout. So we thought something similar would happen in this game. And what was it? 17-3 or 17-3 at halftime. Seemed like this one was trending the exact same way. Bo wasn't doing all the things we were accustomed to in that first half. Quinn, Ewers, I mean, they got up 14 quick. You had the punt return touchdown. It just seemed like Texas was going to control this game. And then whatever that halftime speech at halftime that Dillingham gave to his team, they came out the second half looking like a completely different team. And when you look at the box score, it's kind of interesting. Total yards, 510 for Arizona State, 375 for Texas. And I think the biggest tell of them all, time of possession. Both in the first half and the second half, Arizona State had the ball, felt like every time. 37 minutes for Arizona State, 22 for Texas. Almost double the touchdowns, first downs. 29 for Arizona State, 17 for the Longhorns. In that second half, they were kind of doing whatever they wanted, especially in the run game. The only thing was Texas had the more explosive plays. They had the punt return that I'd mentioned. Golden was having himself a day, kind of got whatever he wanted. But they were keeping guys like Gunnar Helm until it was overtime. Isaiah Bond, Jaden Blue, those guys were kept quiet. It really was just Quinn Ewers getting it to Golden or the defense stepping up. It wasn't really much working for Texas. It kind of felt like at some point the scale would tip towards Arizona State, and it did in that second half. And then next thing you know, it was a snowball effect and a snowball. I thought a really big play was what was our boy that got ejected from the Iowa State game for the hit, and he was able to come back in the second half. Forget his name, but he made a huge hit in the end zone, which caused a safety, which gave them up to 5 points, excuse me. And then they were able to get the ball back, make something happen. And from there, the tides just turned. We had Skattebo throwing passes, catching passes. He definitely raised his draft stock in that game. And that time of possession finally caught up to Texas, but Texas had made one more play down the stretch.
And I tweeted this out at Alec on the radio if you want to show some love. And at Blake Live. There's an underscore in there. I haven't done this in a while with you.
2 of them.
But there was one play that changed my entire idea of how this game should go, how it was going to end. I thought throughout the entirety of the second half, Arizona State deserves to win this football game. They deserve to. They are playing like the better football team in this matchup where they were double-digit underdogs. They look like the better football team. They look like they have the better quarterback. They look like they have the better run game throughout the entirety of the second half. But then they force a fourth down with essentially the game on the line at that point. What was it, 4th and 12?
Dude, yeah, because they got the false start.
Yep. So they get backed up. It feels like one of the best offensive linemen in the country flinches, sets them up for failure. But this is where I can't knock the quarterback because everybody and their mother is saying after the game that he checked out of a play into a cover 0 beater. On 4th and forever, Arizona State goes cover 0. And this happens.
Ready to take the snap. Has the snap. 4th and 13. Ewers looking. Fires. He's got Golden open. He caught it. Touchdown, Texas. Matthew Golden strikes again. 28 yards on 4th down and 13. And the Longhorns score a touchdown.
Craig Way and Texas Radio on the call there. You can hear Texas live play-by-play on our sister station, News Radio 1080 KRLD. But 4th and 13. You run cover 0 on 4th and 13 with the game on the line. Why? That is my only question. That was the point where I said Arizona State deserves to lose this football game. Why do you run cover 0 with the game on the line? 4th and 13. All you have to do is not give up anything big over the top, and you win that football game. But Quinn Ewers, for all the knocks I will give him, for all of the inconsistency, for all of the perfection, look, he's not an All-American. He has never been a finalist for the Heisman Trophy. He is almost never accurate, it seems, downfield when it matters the most. Nobody will ever confuse this guy for the most athletic player on the field or the most athletic quarterback in the SEC. But he is smart enough to win football games. You've seen it all this season where he will go to the line of scrimmage and make the check at the right time. And as much as I don't think he is an NFL-level talent, he has NFL-level IQ. And this is why, we've been saying it on the show for weeks now, for as confused as some people get that Arch Manning isn't playing just because he is the more athletic guy, because he is the more gifted quarterback, he's a redshirt freshman. He is, I would bet my bottom dollar he is probably not checking into a cover 0 beater in that situation. 4th and 13, you find Matthew Golden on an audibled play over the middle up the seam for the touchdown, and you keep this game going. That is why Texas was just that much better.
Yeah, I'm rewatching the play on my phone right here, and their DC did no camouflaging on it. It was a pretty obvious cover 0. And now, I'm not saying that as far as every quarterback's making that check, but an experienced quarterback is making that check, and especially that late in the game, like, that's a pretty easy check from a guy who's, like you said, got a high IQ of the game, a guy who's been here a couple years. And if you're going to go cover 0, you got to understand that your safeties are going to be there's a lot of pressure on them. Your defensive backs, you have to be perfect. And you got a guy like Matthew Golden who's already gone over 100 yards in this game.
Yeah, he went off.
You got to understand he's probably the guy they're going to. Isaiah Bond has no catches at this point. Gunnar Helm has like 2 catches at this point. Wingo only has 1 or 2 catches. Like, they're probably going to Golden. It's 4th and 12. Literally, if you stop them, the game is over. It is overtime. Arizona State was up at this point. And I got to say this part too. Beautiful route from Golden, who runs the kind of corner post, takes one little hitch to the right, acts like he's running a corner, and that safety and corner both part like the Red Sea, and now all of a sudden he's cutting back for that post. Beautiful ball, putting it right over the safety's head. But if you are that safety, you understand you have deep responsibility. And if you're the defensive coordinator, you got to understand they're probably going to go something past the sticks, something right at the sticks, going all out and making it where my safety has to make an All-American play to win us this game when they've already backed themselves up. It's just not very smart. So to your point, but shout out to Quinn Ewers making the call, because just because they're in a cover 0 look doesn't mean everyone's going to check to that in that high pressure situation. So shout out to him. Shout out to Golden running a beautiful route, and Quinn put it on the money. So, I mean, he had two really good plays. That last seconds of regulation and overtime, Quinn was practically perfect.
And Kenny Dillingham, the Arizona State head coach, even said after the game, like, he gave all the credit to Quinn Ewers on that play. He said, look, he audibled into a play that he knew would beat that look, and I just didn't have time to get my guys out of that look. And with that look, like you said, they showed pressure from the jump, and they did nothing to disguise it. You need to drop back in coverage there. Like, you can show pressure, but go full Mike Zimmer on them. Go up, run a sim pressure there. You show 5 or 6 at the line of scrimmage, drop 2 of them back, maybe even 3, and you have maybe 3 rushing at that point because Texas's offensive line is so good at blitz pickup and even in pass protection for their running backs. Like, they are so good at the fundamentals of protecting the quarterback in those situations that you can't afford to show your full hand with the game on the line like that.
Yep. And Quinn Ewers in the final 5 minutes of regulation and 2 overtime periods. This was his stats tolos. 11 for 14, 161 yards, no interceptions, 2 touchdowns when it mattered most. I'll ask you this, Alec. Did this performance, especially late, did this change your perception on Quinn Ewers at all?
No.
Okay.
I still don't think he's an NFL-level talent. I still don't think he's the best quarterback in this college football playoff left.
Even the best quarterback on his team?
Probably not. Hey, like I said, look, I mean, there's a reason that the guy has never been a Heisman finalist. He was never an All-American. Like, nobody's ever going to confuse him for the best athlete on the field. But he makes those decisions. I'm not even talking about just like the big boom play. He just makes the smart decisions at all of the right times, and he's the root cause for Texas finding the hardest ways to win most of the time.
20 of 30, 322 last night, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception.
Yeah, and the box score is a lot prettier than it looked. And I'm not just bashing him to bash him. It's because we've seen this all season long from him. Yeah. I mean, even the Texas faithful, like the 214 that's going berserk on us on the Frankel and Frankel injury attorney text line for no good reason right now. Like, even them, they've been calling for Arch Manning since the middle of the season, since you got that whiff of him and his athletic ability, because he is that talented of an athlete. Yeah. The reason that Quinn Ewers keeps playing is because he has the skins on the wall. Yep. He has the reps. He has the in-game decision-making skill to make those calls. You even saw it a couple weeks ago where, you know, he's in the red zone and he checks in out of a pass to run plays in 2 consecutive drives to get them to score. Yep. So he's got the IQ. He makes some boneheaded throws every now and then, but at the line of scrimmage pre-snap, he's one of the best in college football.
Now, do you think you saw enough from Texas to think they can win the way they played against Arizona State? Will they win another game in these playoffs? Because that's the question I had to ask myself. It's like, yes, you beat Arizona State, who played really well. Like, big ups to them. I think a lot of people thought they'd get blown out. And the fact they made that a game, the best game we've seen so far, I think was big ups to us as college football fans and the college football playoffs in general. But if they play the same way they played against Arizona State, do they win in the next round, in the semis?
That's tough. This side of the bracket was just never going to be favorable for whoever advanced, because we kind of expected, I don't know if we expected to the degree of what we saw last night with Ohio State, but we felt like as a collective college football whole that Ohio State was kind of back to what we expected them to be.
Oh, they're going to play Ohio State.
Yeah. So it seemed like we got the Ohio State. That's why we didn't even touch on it yet, because it wasn't much of a game. Oregon didn't really show up, and Ohio State looked exactly as we expected. We'll talk about that game in depth later on in the show, but that's going to be a very tough ask. I mean, at the point where I have friends that are, you know, University of Texas alums that were in our fantasy football group chat, you know, whenever Arizona State's making that epic comeback, they're in there texting saying, we weren't going to beat Ohio State anyways. Yeah. Like, they were already conceding a loss that hadn't happened yet by saying Ohio State would have whooped us. Well, now that's going to be a reality, and I think Ohio State, even though they are the lower seed in this matchup, it's
going to be a great game.
They are going to have a field day if they look like they did yesterday against Oregon. But
I mean, they look like the best team we've seen in college football in that first half.
Absolutely.
30, pretty much 31-0. Oregon scored at the very end of the first half, but I was like, oh my gosh, 200-plus yards in the first quarter. what's their receiver's name? They got their great receiver. Jeremiah Smith. Like 150 in the first quarter.
And the funny thing is, he would be wide receiver number 1 in this draft.
Yep.
He would be wide receiver number 1 in the next draft in 2026. In 2027 is when he's draft eligible. He might not even be wide receiver 1 because there is currently a 17-year-old kid at Alabama that wants to have a conversation for that wide receiver 1 spot in 2027.
Crazy.
So